How you doing, Charlie?
Good, Jeff, how are you?
Good.
Cool.
I believe this to be what I emailed you guys all. So if you want a copy, here's 14 pages.
I printed mine out.
Okay.
Yes, is it Wi-Fi here?
Yes.
He's on his way.
He's on his way, he was towing the trailer, so he had a little tougher time trailer.
And your thing in there.
Since it's gonna be about 7:15, we'll open the bids
So
at 7:15, and we'll go to Rick, and we'll do all this other stuff later.
That's fine.
I appreciate it, he's here to help us, and I don't want to have to spend any more time.
Bring your spouse. Is he here? No.
He's on his way then.
Please don't trust me.
I can,
For work.
he's a Bowling Green Township trustee.
When we do get to the appropriations, basically what we're really agreeing to is the amount for each fund. not each.
No, I don't believe it is. I knew that he saw this afternoon.
All what I thought we'd do is, as soon as John can, we'll open the meeting, go immediately to open the bids, and go to Rick, so he doesn't have to sit through all this.
We got one. I'm gonna try to make a chart thing up here on my computer. That doesn't sound good. Yeah, but I'll have to go get it.
Oh, okay.
today, and she says, Larry, do it, I don't think we're gonna get any more motion in this week.
It seems to rain every 10 minutes and then it quits.
Yeah.
That's just,
You better rain it over with.
yeah.
No, I have Papa Bill, and I heard that one, I did just.
Ready to go?
Hey, Don.
Yeah, that's what I thought we did. Start the meeting and then, open the meeting. And then we need to, the two things, I guess.
There you
So,
go. You get all winded it?
they don't have to wait. And then we'll
12 hours for each.
30 minutes and everything else.
Okay. What's going on, Nick? Sounds like home.
I'd like to welcome you all to the Union Township Trustees meeting on Monday, April 6th. We apologize for being opening a little late. We were doing a site inspection in the Fairmont and Stone Creek subdivisions on some road problems. And we'll discuss that later when we come to roads and bridges in the meeting tonight. If we'll all stand and do the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to take things out of order a little bit to first to come to do our, open our mowing bids and then to accommodate our two guests here tonight so they can, we appreciate both Ricks coming tonight to talk about this, and there's no need to stay through the whole thing. It's like 2 minutes ahead of time. If somebody comes through the door, I guess we,
Well, the bids had to be in by 7.
so we're fine. First bid is from Motivator Mowers of Granville.
Was that motivated or?
MOW.
Motivated Mowers of Granville. There are 5 separate items. First being Refugee Road Cemetery, $30 per cut. Second, Devil's Den Cemetery, $27 per cut. Burial Ground Union Station Cemetery, $27 per cut. Licking Baptist Cemetery, $175 per cut. And the Township Complex, $100. There is a certificate of liability insurance. And they seem to have answered all the questions and signed the bid. We probably have a marketing problem, don't we, on Devil's Den Cemetery?
I'm sorry to say, I don't know where that is. I've never had a burial there.
But it's not exactly where you'd want to leave Mom for eternity. It's at the corner of Deeds and Whitehead Road. The next bid is Cole M. Anders. Cole, C-O-L-E, M. Anders. Maybe there's a different company name get in. It's Anders Lawn and Landscape. Refugee Road Cemetery, $40 per cut. Devil's Den, $40. Union Station Cemetery, $35. Licking Baptist Cemetery, $240. The Township Complex, $160. And there is a certificate of insurance. Everything seems to be signed. Patrick Taylor. Refugee Road Cemetery, $40. Devil's Den, $35. Union Station, $35. Licking Baptist, $185. Township Complex, $185. There does not appear to be a certificate of insurance.
He said he would get that later.
Okay. The next one is Bader Lawn Care, LLC. Refugee Road Cemetery, $55. Devil's Den, $50. Burial Ground Union Station, $50. Licking Baptist Cemetery, $425. Township Complex, $250. And their bid seems to be signed, and there is approved insurance. Final bid is from Lakewood Lawn Care. I think it's actually Lakewood Lawn Service, Rob Miller. Refugee Road Cemetery, $35. Devil's Den, $25. Union Station Cemetery, $30. Licking Baptist, $200. And the Township Complex, $80. There is a certificate of insurance. Everything appears to be signed. That is all the bids we have. We will be reviewing these and making our decision at our next meeting on April 20th. Thank you for bidding. We're going to jump ahead then to cemetery, and Rick, you've got some information on the lease?
Yeah, I sent Paul a copy this afternoon. We were in Columbus all afternoon, but I talked to the prosecutor, and as I told Austin, no more acreage than there is. It costs almost as much to advertise it as you might make on it. And he said we could just enter into an agreement. And what I've done the past several years, same thing I've done with all my landlords, is basically a share operation, but we settle in cash. And I'll keep detailed records of all the inputs. We might be able to get the thing under CAUV. We have, that's, the Cemetery Association never tried that, but I've got all the stuff for the last 4 or 5 years, and up until this last year, it would have met that. You have to have a $2,500 gross income. And this last year didn't quite do that with, you know, the yields weren't quite as good as they had been, prices weren't as good, but there's about 4 years where it was well above that. So if if we decide we want to pursue that, we can. I didn't bring the lease I sent Paula is the one that I used with Maribel Neal, and we can take it to Austin to.
It's really long for what we need to do.
Okay.
So, when I talked to Austin about it, he recommended that we keep it as simple as possible. I have a phone call into Brad Cottrell at the auditor's office regarding the taxes on it. We are paying taxes, or they were paying taxes on it prior to this. It was never listed apparently as a cemetery. Cemeteries are exempt, however, if we don't farm it, we're gonna have to mow it. So.
May as well try to make a little money.
How many acres is it?
About 4.5 acres. And that's what they were paying taxes on, was the 4.5 acres.
Yeah, so,
I mean, that will go with any government entity. When the county bought the property for the sewer plant out of Buckeye Lake, said until they actually put it into where it was a sewer plant, I farmed it for them, and they had to pay taxes on it.
I guess what we could do is we could look at what is the easier step to CAUV or incorporate it as part of the cemetery and still let it be farmed. I mean, if we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I just don't want to, Kevin Keller's putting on my ammonia for me. It's been in beans the last 2 years. It really should go to corn this year. And I don't want to start putting inputs on it until we at least get an agreement of what we're going to do. And I'm satisfied with a verbal agreement to start with.
I certainly don't see any reason,
And you're talking about a 50-50 crop share.
Yeah. We'll settle in cash. I mean, I'll give you a settlement sheet. I should have brought one of those down. It's on an Excel spreadsheet. I've got it updated with Paula.
And you just determine the harvest price at harvest?
Yeah.
Okay, so whatever the day of harvest.
Or if I have to get it contracted at a better price, I'll share that with you too.
Okay.
I try to treat my landlords right, because I want to stay.
That's very customary.
that's,
Very customary.
I don't, for 4.5 acres, time is wasted.
If it weren't just down the road, I wouldn't be looking at it.
Right. Well, I move that the intent of the trustees is to continue the lease with Rick Black for the 4.5 acres of the cemetery expansion property.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions about it? Oh, we're just, the motion here is that it's the intent of the trustees to contract.
okay.
If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, same sign?
Thank you. Now I'm going to put on my commissioner hat.
Oh,
I assume you got my email over the weekend about we have a meeting tomorrow afternoon with John Wissey from ODNR concerning the Buckeye Lake Dam
I
project.
didn't get it, but.
I didn't forward it, because you had just had the note in there about the,
Oh.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you wanted me.
Oh.
Well, this is one of these things, I think they contacted us Wednesday and said he was coming. And so we weren't sure what we were supposed to do, and we just sort of independently decided we wanted to include all the local entities. Buckeye Lake, Licking Township, Hebron, and it's 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Well, and I knew you were gonna be here today, so I knew you would take care of It's
And
not,
I think it's gonna be in room D on the 4th floor.
And this is in what regard?
He is the public relations person. He is the appointed public relations person for the Buckeye Lake Dam project. Now, he met with Fairfield County last week. I'm going to assume he's going to meet with Perry County commissioners. But he did meet with Fairfield County commissioners last week. And so, like I said, we got notice, I think it was Wednesday, that he would be joining us tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. It's the last thing on our agenda tomorrow.
Thanks for the invitation. I can't go.
We had sent out some press releases, but nobody's paying any attention to them. And I told Tim this last one, he was supposed to send it out to you, Charlie, because we said he may not have gotten it done yet.
Okay.
But we do have a prepared press release, and I'll check with him tomorrow. And, because the beacon does circulate around the lake.
Right.
And we've been accused of being quiet on this, and there's not a whole lot we can do. But,
Well, I mean, as far as the commissioners?
yeah.
But you
What we
got
are
other
doing-
folks there.
Yeah, we are partnering with Fairfield and Perry County on an impact study. In fact, we had already started those wheels in motion. The planning commission had started on an impact study last fall to try to promote the Buckeye Lake area. And so we have laid a lot of the groundwork for this. Company by the name of Silver Lode is going to be doing the study. But
And this is within the banks or within the region?
within the region, it's a three-county agreement.
Where do they supposed to be done?
I don't know.
No.
Yeah, like I said, this is just getting going. I think we're gonna have a resolution before us tomorrow, possibly, to proceed as far as Lincoln County is concerned. If not, we'll have it before very long. The state is picking up about 1/3 of the cost of that. And the counties are each gonna contribute about $5,000 to $6,000 someplace in there. And we are getting, people have contacted us, people that live out there that have businesses, they're very concerned what's gonna happen, and, we sympathize with that, we understand it.
Yeah, the water seems to be getting lower by the day.
Well, if they've got the valves open, it's going to.
Well, thanks for the invitation.
You're most welcome, you're most welcome. And, like I said, it came here, Hebron, Ralph responded, he will be there for sure. There will be a representative from Buckeye Lake, and I anticipate somebody from Lincoln Township as well. And as far as I know, it's gonna be in room D on the 4th floor. So, that's all the business I have, unless you got something you want me to carry back to my colleagues.
I think you said the line right
Well, you know how to get a hold of me if it does.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, have a good evening.
Thank you, Rick. Rick, we appreciate you volunteering to come and talk to us about operating a cemetery, something not an active cemetery. So, the floor is yours.
Well, when Jessica called me and asked me to come, I was like, well, I'll tell you what I can and help you get maybe on a little bit better footing so that you might be a little bit more active. One of the things that has been a problem with this location is there hasn't been a real visible presence on how to buy graves and how to contact people who are in charge of the purchase of graves. I noticed last year there was a sign that went up which gave some information, but prior to that, you were just on your own. So I think some real visible signage at the location would be appropriate, and I think I would go ahead and let people know what you're thinking you're gonna charge for graves or for lots. Most burial property in the county is sold by lots of 4, or you can divide that into 2, or you can sell individual plots and put reserves on the rest of the lot for a future purchase. At Kirkersville, we allow a grave to be bought at need if someone has not purchased graves, and then we'll hold either another grave for the spouse or the rest of the lot until someone comes along and says they're interested in that property, and then you have 14 days to pay for it. And that would be a good policy to adapt here as well. Something you might want to consider is having a reduced price for Union Township residents and a higher price for those outside of the township. We do not have that currently at Kirkersville. However, as Columbus comes more out 70, it's something that we have considered before. The price, the going rate for a grave in this part of the country is a lot less than what you would find at Holy Cross or Glenrest or Forest Lawn. So because of that, we talk about it every year. Are we going to put a in area, out of area surcharge on the graves? It might be something to consider. With that in mind, a burial plot at Hebron. Hebron is the most reasonable. It's also the wettest. It's $450 per burial plot. Kirkersville is $700, $550 of which goes for the grave, $150 goes into the perpetual care fund. I would highly encourage you to set up a perpetual care fund and put at least a third, if not a half, of your profits per year into your perpetual care fund, so that there's always money available to care for it. Opening and closing at Hebron is $500. Opening and closing at Kirkersville is $650 during the week, and then they pay a premium on the weekend, more on Saturday, even more on Sundays and holidays.
What are those numbers, and those are Kirkersville numbers?
Those are Kirkersville numbers. I'm sorry, Hebron is $500 for opening and closing.
Okay.
Kirkersville is $650 during the week, $725 on Saturday, and we try not to vary on Sunday at Kirkersville, Sunday and holidays. And that's a policy you can make and set, just communicate it to the area funeral home so that they know, that we will not allow Sunday burial.
Is there much demand, Rick, for Sunday
There
burials?
is. There's a lot of demand for weekend services now because of the way people work. So I would address it in your first set of bylaws. I would address that, what you're going to do. Jessica asked me, you guys have the best, currently the gentleman who's digging there, Ray Craig, is the best in the area. I would keep him if you can. He's very professional. He has a little bobcat. He does a very nice job. I'm real pleased with him.
Do you know what he charges?
I think you could negotiate with Ray, but I think they pay around $400 for him to open and close. And I would charge more than that if I were you. I'd charge $500 or $550 and make a little bit of your money on the opening and closing graves. If you have a talented concrete man in your purview, you could pour your own foundations and make a little bit of money on that too. You may not want to mess with it. You can let this monument companies pour their own foundations.
That's for the monument. I found that concrete foundation on one of the documents I was looking at, and I wasn't quite sure what that was for. Was
Right.
this
It's
for the headstone?
monument.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I promised Jessica that I'd come help her set up some sample bylaws together, or Paul, or whoever you want me to work with, and I'll help you get some paperwork together to make it a little
I
bit
think-
easier.
This all information is good, especially for them, but I think Jessica and I need you to.
Probably.
I started and I sent it to everybody, a draft of, what was a draft of, one bylaws, but rules,
Cemetery
yeah,
rules.
cemetery rules.
Rates and stuff.
And the rates, I'm still researching out, and that information you gave me was good.
But just let you guys know, the money that we earn from the cemetery is not enough to keep going. Henry said it's 1 or 2 cemetery plots a year, same with burials, if we're lucky.
Well, again,
If we advertise, we might.
it might be more if you're attentive, if you return people's phone calls. I mean, I've had burials where the day of the burial, I'd not heard back, whether or not the grave was even.
Yeah, we had.
So finally, I just called the guy direct and said, I'll show you where the grave is, the stone's up. And they did it themselves, so there wasn't any interest to make it work.
Jessica and I've been trying to be as proactive as possible. We sat down, I think the day that everything was actually final and started on the rules and regulations. And we looked through the 2 price sheets that we had, and I didn't understand Union Townships at all. So
They were having prices change for youth versus adult. That's,
well, that, and they had an additional charge for, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense, so, I was kind of wanted to talk to you, because I didn't know what Coopersville's prices were, and I know that's a pretty active cemetery.
Yeah, we're pretty active.
Um,
We also have a lot of money.
If you say we, that cemetery's owned by the,
I'm on the trustee, board of trustees.
Board of trustees.
I sit on the board of trustees. It's a private, it's not a township entity, it's a private entity.
so it's a
It's not
cemetery
owned by-
association.
Right.
Gotcha.
Not owned by the village.
Not owned by the village, nothing to do with the village.
I think we should, certainly our objective here should be to take in enough to pay for the costs here. And I mean, I think if we put together something that's understandable, we've got it's a fairly easy market in terms of at least sending our information and our willingness to respond quickly to every funeral director in the area.
I think so, and I think there are people that would, want to be buried here if they knew that it was gonna continue and maybe see a little bit of improvement in the way that it's been kept up. And frankly, that, if I may comment, I don't know whether it's appropriate or not, but did your bids for that cemetery include weed-eating rounded stones?
Yes.
Man, oh man, you're lucky. Those are great. All of those bids are great.
we actually had, one bid was from the people who did it last year, and they did a good job.
Oh, that's super. That's great. They pay a lot more. We get a lot more stones to weed around too.
Well, there's a lot of history here, a lot like Kirkersville. I mean, there are a lot of old stones there, not like this one. So there's a lot of care needs to be done around those. But then Henry has done a little bit of effort to get a lot of the older part of the cemetery so it looks better.
Yeah.
So the image is improving.
Right.
People see what's available.
And another thing you might as well address while you're putting your initial rules and regulations together is, are you going to allow cremated remains to be interred on top of people who are buried? Are you going to allow a married couple to buy one burial plot for both of their cremated remains? How many cremated remains are you going to allow on one grave? You might as well just decide. You might as well just decide right now.
When we were in training in Columbus this week, that's one thing they were talking about, was how many you're gonna allow in one.
Well, this is an issue. It
And,
came.
and what we finally, we wrestled with it, we made a little special section at Kirkersville for cremated graves, and I don't recommend that at all. Because then people want to memorialize and put headstones, and then they're encroaching on, there's a big encroachment issue you'll discover when you start running the cemetery, where people want to plant bushes and want to put the chips, the marble chips around the stone. And remember that every inch in front of the stone is on the other people's grave in front of them. So that's encroachment on somebody else's property. And what we finally decided was, no special no special, no special prices for graves. If you want a grave, you buy a full-size grave. We allow two cremated remains to be buried on the grave, one at a traditional foot position, one at the head, and then so that you can get two monuments up if you want to memorialize each person separately. And we allow one cremated remains to be buried on top of a full-size burial, a burial vault that's already in the ground.
Do you
Now,
have,
how many, excuse me, Paul, how many cremated remains go in a casket? We don't care. So if dad dies first and he's cremated, and then mom puts dad's ashes in the casket, and 4 or 5 dogs, and who knows?
But do you guys charge to dig that casket up and everything, I'm assuming?
No.
They hold it until the last.
Oh,
we
they
go-
stay there until the last person in the
if-
casket's dead.
Normally, people in caskets are dead.
But he's
If
left
the
to go.
cremated one dies after the one in the casket is
Yeah.
dead, we just bury that on
Okay.
top of the grave. If the person who's cremated dies first, we save them and
Okay.
toss them in the casket with the one who's gonna be buried. And then you have to also make a policy about, are you gonna allow pets?
we already said no pets. In my draft, there's no pets.
Does the Ohio Revised Code allow for pets in a publicly owned cemetery?
I don't think the Ohio Revised Code addresses the issue of pets. And that's a weak spot in the law. I think you're making the right decision. I don't think you want to publicly admit, but Fifi and Fluffy and Fido are in mom's casket with her. I don't think nobody's gonna
Well,
fuss.
what we don't know that's in the casket,
That's
it's
exactly
not
right.
hurting us.
That's exactly right.
Do
And
you
that's
have-
where a funeral director would
Right.
handle that. If
Right.
a family wanted to do that,
Right.
basically say, it can go in the casket.
And
If
then
we,
people sneak it in during the services.
And another thing you might as well address now, so that there's no hard feelings down the line, is you allow alcoholic beverages in the cemetery.
Well,
Seriously?
this is government.
I took a service into the Fairmont Cemetery Association, and I allowed the family to have a final toast. And they called the sheriff to come arrest me because there was to be no alcohol in the cemetery, and the rules stated that very clearly. So, what you need to do is, and how I got out of being arrested that day was I walked over to a headstone and showed a bottle of beer sitting on the stone. And because they hadn't enforced it with the bottle of beer sitting on the stone, well, Randy Thorpe came himself and he said he wasn't going to arrest me, but
That's not from my side.
there was a bottle of beer sitting on a headstone there. So, if you don't allow alcohol, then you have to police it, you have to go through the cemetery and get rid of it when you see it. Or you will not be able to enforce stuff like that.
Well, I
is
think
there
since-
much of a demand, Rick, for,
There's
final
not, and
toast?
I didn't even think about it, we would have did it at the funeral home. Now, if somebody says they want a final toast, we'll just do it at the funeral home.
Well, I think that since it's a government-owned entity now, that that kind of mixes that alcohol without an issue. Do you have your rules and regs written?
Yeah,
Can you send it?
yeah, okay.
Cool.
And you can feel free to use them, because they're not, it's nothing earth-shattering. I would, with all that said though, with all I've told you tonight, I would also recommend that you keep them as simple as possible. Because our problem we wrestle with at Kirkersville is we have regulations that we follow and regulations that we don't follow. And then you have residents who take you to task, every time they see you about the fact that so-and-so's got a monument that's over 28 inches high, why can't I? So be real cognizant as you're making stuff, and I'll try to look at them when you get them together so that you're not shooting yourself in the foot, because running a cemetery is just a constant complaint. People are just constantly not happy. You never hear when things are good, but you hear from the people constantly they're not happy. If it doesn't get mowed, if it doesn't get weeded, if the stones don't get, if the flags don't get on, if the flowers don't get taken off, it's just a constant struggle.
You said flowers, the flags, are we responsible for marking veterans and that
You
sort
are
of?
responsible for marking the graves of your veterans.
Certain times of year or all the time?
Well, you want to have the flags out by Memorial Day. Now, Boy Scout troops, if you get your flags, and you can get your flags from the county, if you call the Boy Scouts, they'll come and do it as long as the graves have the military marker on it that shows where the flag is to go. But, that's your responsibility.
Where in the county do you get the flags?
Must be a Veterans Service Commission. Mark Van Buren would be a good person, contact person. He's the president of the Kirkerson Cemetery Association. So he'd be a good resource to ask about that.
And when do they normally come off, or do they?
Well, by bad weather, we try to take them off.
Most of your folks, when they approach you for burial, and they have most of the time they'll have their arrangements made and plots normally bought, but aren't there times that you have people that are asking for your services that don't have plots?
Oh, all the time.
And then what criteria or what helps make that choice as to where they go?
Normally, they have a place in mind that they want to go.
As far as if they leave it up to you, you're going to
I would give them a list of several in the area and help them make their mind up. No, nothing is.
How much of a detriment do you think that falling down church is over there too?
Well, I'd like to see it gone if you could, but, I don't know what your budget is.
We're working on getting that, right?
Yeah, it'll take as much time as it took us to get this
Another
cemetery.
3 years, it'll be down.
I think that would improve the looks dramatically.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that would give people a little bit more confidence that it's gonna, the cemetery's gonna be properly cared for.
Well, I'm pretty sure that our full intention is to get names and phone numbers and policies and prices up as soon as we possibly can and run it right. Because I know before, I think since we moved here, I've gotten calls a couple of times a month about inquiring about the cemetery.
Right.
And before that, every once in a while too, so, and that's the project for the
Do you
week.
have, I'm not real knowledgeable about township government. Do you have to bid to have the church torn down? Do you have to advertise bids?
Well, first of all, we don't own it.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Baptist Church still owns it.
Yeah.
They don't, we're in sort of a,
I know. They don't want it.
they don't want it, but they also don't want to do anything to expedite our taking it over. I mean,
Well-
they just don't want to do anything.
The Ohio Baptist Association, the state church people don't acknowledge that they own it. To at least to have the church's name and to be sanctioned through the Baptist Association, you have to go through the Ohio Baptist Association. Well, when they folded here, which included there, the state owns it, but they won't acknowledge that. So,
Well, one thing that might help, do you think, Rick, that it would be helpful if we put a nice tasteful sign that says owned and operated by Union Township trustees.
It doesn't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to be big, but, you know, something that gives people
Yeah, that's why as soon
Because
as,
we have a legal obligation, we might as well advertise it,
Right.
that we.
as soon as we get our rules and regulations and price list in.
Under we wait.
And it might be a good idea for the three of you guys to walk it, to see what needs to be done. Henry thought gravel needed to be done, and there was a question about drainage. So you guys might wanna walk, see what you think absolutely needs done.
Spread and stone is the township's expertise.
Seeing that.
I hope to have a price list draft to you guys by the end of the week. It was easier to draft the rules and regulations than it was the price list. That took a little more
But
research.
if you'll send a copy of those to Rick, because I think.
Yeah, I'll send that to him too.
Because I downloaded those things from Granville, and they were like 12 pages long, and I think that's a little.
Greenville's in a little different market, you know, it's a little bit more.
Well, and that's pretty much what I followed, and I really didn't see anything out of line with Granville's.
Maple Grove, the great one.
Well, their rules and regs covered all of
Welch
their,
Hills,
they covered all of their cemeteries.
yeah,
Um,
they're a little pricey.
Yeah, now, the price list, that's what I don't understand and whether,
They're a little pricey up there.
so maybe that's something you can help us with, is try to,
I think you can.
Negotiate.
You can get I think you can find a happier medium that'll allow you to be a little bit more competitive.
because the only two price lists I had to go with was Granville's and Licking Townships, and they were,
And Lincoln operates
different.
Jacksontown and what else?
I think Jacksontown's the only actual operating one
Okay.
that they have. I mean, they have, I think there's the Flea Cemetery, but I mean, I think that fits into the same category as Devil's Den does
Well,
for us.
I think you're right, yeah.
Though we can market that if you've got somebody that's appropriate for it.
he's not gonna call me.
Your property is one of the drier properties, and that's always how I approach this with families is, you want dry burial ground. It's not as dry as Kirkersville. Kirkersville's on a vein of limestone, those graves are always dry. And everything else is wet in the area, Hebron, Millersport,
Yeah, I remember.
Holy Cross, Pasqua, those are all wet cemeteries. And that's not something you really want to, you don't want to bury people in a wet cemetery. And Fairmont, even on the hill. I've seen water run out of graves on the hill at Fairmont in the summer. And you think it would be dry. I know you're a lot of business, I'll get out of your hair.
Yeah, I've got some.
Appreciate it.
No problem, good luck, good luck.
Thank you very much.
And I'll get
Thanks.
with you too.
Yeah, we'll get together.
Thanks for your input.
Yeah.
We will, we're gonna be paying somewhere around $200 a week to mow it, so we need to
Are
have
you
some.
gonna have to mow it every week?
And ORC, it says we only have to do 2 or 3 mowings a year, but they suggest that we keep it nice so we're being yelled at by the community.
We mowed it every week last year.
Is it really?
Well, we mow ourselves
That's why it looks so much better then. You know, the big push is Memorial Day, and after Memorial Day, and if it gets dry,
It
Yeah,
didn't get dry
we-
last year.
it did, I know, it did not get dry last year, but the year before,
Yeah, we did
we
not,
didn't have to mow much at all during the latter part of July and August because it was dry. And then just have it looking nice if there's a burial there, you got a couple days notice, you can get it. I don't know that sure, you want to mow it every week, every week.
How often do you have yours mowed?
Like I say, they mow it a lot in the spring, and they get ahead of it for Memorial Day, and then I think they go every other after that, and then, like I said, in 1 year in August, all they did was mow it one time to knock the buckwheat dead, the buck
Right.
that stuff that has a little, whatever that is.
Well, we have it in the contract that we can tell them to cut back, but last year,
I know last year
there was no breaking
it was a
laws.
green season, we mowed everywhere.
So,
Well, maybe we'll get a break this year, it won't cost as much. But I don't know that I put a lot of gravel down in there either. I don't think there's that many people
well,
that
we
visit.
don't want people just driving in there just to be driving in there either.
Yeah.
Doing things they shouldn't be doing in the
Yeah.
cemetery.
It's not like Kirkersville where we have a problem where we have to have a patrol.
No, there's no place to hide it.
There's no place to hide.
You've got to be pretty much on full display there.
Yeah.
Kirkersville is,
Kirkersville's a problem because people can go back in there and hide on any one of those side streets and side alleys. Okay?
thanks so much for your input.
Yeah, we'll call you this week.
Time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Well, let's go back to our original agenda here, and it's, what did I do with it?
I'll run back and pull that mowing thing off.
Let's go to the minutes. Does anybody, have we had a chance to review the minutes?
Oops, it's O-U-P-S.
Is that how you, okay? I wasn't sure.
I move we approve the minutes with that small correction, less than change.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Okay, now, next up are the bills.
3 weeks of bills, so it's a long list.
It's card member services.
That's Park National credit card. It was for when they bought the grant stuff. So it was the barriers or something like that.
The grant stuff for,
Grant, Paul had money for grants, and we got that money in to buy certain items such as
We bought
barriers.
2 barricades.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Why is village of Hebron so high? For the
That's
evenings?
half a year instead of a quarter.
Is that by terms of the contract?
No, it's just easier, because we only get 2 payments a year, so.
And they're all into that?
So they're gonna get it during, when we get our monies, rather than half, when we get our money and half in the middle of the year, or a quarter. So instead of 4 payments, they're going to 2 payments. They're just getting 2 payments early.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but.
Yeah, I talked to Debbie last week, and they were okay with it. And Cliff was there too.
With the terms of the contract being quarterly, was their suggestion. Okay. base truck is a repair item?
I think it was that solenoid that the snowstorm you're helping me with,
Oh, okay. That's cheap repair.
like $80, something like
I
that.
thought it'd be more than that.
I don't, the tire centers, does that 465 show up someplace else? Oh, no.
It was deleted. It was a duplicate payment. So it just got deleted.
Oh, okay.
Or however you wanna.
Is that payment to gross, is that
That should
the
be the
final
remainder,
one?
yeah, it should be the remainder, because first one was just for 30%, this one should have been for the remainder.
I move to pay those.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Those opposed say same sign. Approved. Sorry, here I keep misplacing my agenda. Next up is we've done, we've opened the mowing bids and we have the contract.
Oh, can we go ahead and, I wasn't really supposed to do the bills without having appropriations approved, because we got it so late. For some reason, my email is blocked going to county. So let's just see, big issue with the, not the actual breakdown, but the total amounts per fund.
So, I guess that was the question I had. So we should have this done prior to January,
No, prior to April 1st.
April 1st. And this is
This is
appropriations
for the year.
for,
For the year.
for this year, even though they're already a fourth of the way into it.
That's how it works, because they want you to have a temporary appropriations for the first quarter before you receive the new monies. So you're still spending last year's monies for the first quarter, basically.
Then a lot of these year-to-date expenses, even though we see that there might be small percentages, the bulk of those expenditures for those line items are gonna come later, so that
Right.
percentage is gonna catch up.
Right, because those percentages are basically just on the first quarter.
So making any changes at this point can or cannot be done.
Not real well. I mean, I can reallocate or do something else. I mean, it can be done, it just. And these numbers are, I based them off last year's numbers that we actually spent. And we do have to dip into most of the reserve funds for most of them. And that's what, out any extra big expenses.
So what you have printed here, these large projects, just the status, you don't have that year-to-date or that historical
No, I couldn't remember what,
printout.
I saved that one, I didn't get a chance to print it off. I'm not sure what.
But you sent that to us, didn't you?
Yes, everybody's got it on an email. It shows the breakdowns from year to year.
That's the trend sheet, you mean?
Yeah, trend sheet.
Now, on this trend sheet, when it says the 2014, is that actually the revenue we're going to get this year because we
Yes.
get in arrears?
No, that would be the revenue that we received, should have already received that year.
So what we're gonna get in 2015 is not on here
Correct.
yet. So we're going into 2015, the fiscal year 2000, which happens to be the same as the calendar year, with 355,000
In general.
in general as a carryover.
And then we spent a quarter of it so far. You should also have a fund sheet.
Fund status, okay.
And that should tell you where we're at exactly. The numbers.
Okay, but this does not have any income from this year yet in here, does it?
It would if we received them in,
But we haven't, right?
we have received monies, yes.
Probably,
There's a receipt listing also for you guys, some in that stack.
there's flows of receipts more than just the property tax.
Correct.
So, yeah, we probably have received some monies for this year.
And we have received first quarter, or first half settlements.
But is it in,
It should be, because I printed that off before 9. So yes, I've already put it in there. Let's see what we got here.
but I guess the thing that's concerning me, if it has our first half in that general fund on the fund status, there it is that we have spent almost our entire carryover, 350,000, and half, wait, no. We've spent almost everything that we took in, so plus 5,000. Is that right, Jessica?
Did you draw that from the fund status?
Yeah, I mean, we had at the end of, at the beginning of the year, we had 355,000 in the general fund. We now have 350,000 in the fund. If this includes our first half settlement, we've spent our entire first half settlement plus $5,000 already this year. And
That doesn't sound quite right.
that doesn't sound right to me. Yeah, there's nothing but zeros on here.
Well, the only real major changes from, 2011 to the present is the reduction of revenue. We have lost some revenue.
Yes, I looked across that there in properties and other taxes. In 2012, we had $611,000 in revenue. The year before, we had 404. And then, I mean, our revenue trend is not good here, but did we actually lose half our revenue between 2012 and 2013?
Well, House Bill 66 monies were dwindling, and the state money was dwindling. I didn't think we were gonna get any more state money, and I got one today for 35,000.
Which was what? What was it?
I'm not sure if you died, but that's what I got today. So that is revenue that we're getting that we didn't expect.
anyway, I mean, this must have been a will that was contested or something.
Last year, we did have a state tax, that was, part of it was requested back. And that was on the Phoenix property. But they're giving us more jobs to do and less money to do it with.
Because, I mean, the estate tax has been gone for some time, for a couple of years now, but
We're one of the last ones to lose it. Because last year we had $550,000 in just estate tax that we got.
do you have a report that shows income for the year?
And what
Jessica?
we've received so far, yes.
Yeah.
Here's revenues for this year. I'm trying to get it to go, be evenly best. Revenues for this year we've received, which includes first half, is $96,000 for general fund plus. And motor vehicles, we received 51. And I expect the gas tax to be like very little compared to what's been in the past. Gas tax, we received 15,665. We've received 144,008 for one of our funds. Don't take the cemetery, that's what we received from Henry, from his account to ours. I just don't know what we can spend out of that yet, if anything.
And what did that number end up being?
From Henry,
Yeah, what's-
11,866.49. So that's like not even really a year's worth of money to mow the grass. The other half of the fires, 11,000. 303,741 for the other half of the fire. And then the third one was 115,389. So we've got all the monies for the
Go back up to the top of the general fund, though.
96,858.
We are saying here last year in property and local taxes, 296,000
Is what we received.
we received, and this year we're gonna receive only 182,000.
Yeah, it was, on the estimate, it was like 199, and I think his number was off by 10,000. When Brad sent me that number.
Oh, but we seem to, I mean, I didn't think we were continuing to take ever increasing hits.
Because there's very little coming to general fund for, state.
But I mean, this is down by a third again.
I am gonna try to meet with the ADASD, see if there's any way else that we can save money on our, like,
It'll be
gas and
another
everything else.
30-some thousand in the estate.
35.
Yeah.
So if at all possible, I'd like to see us try to get some type of either road and bridge levy or something that we can get out there, so we can, because we know we're not gonna get any more money from the state, and they're gonna make us do more jobs. I know the gas tax is pretty much gonna be obsolete for the next 5 years.
No, I think the gas tax should be okay. In fact, we actually should get
But
some
we
more.
won't- But we won't have the tourism.
Well, we will, that's right, we will lose some of the gas tax on the people that,
And the gas
The-
prices.
the- the-
Gas prices are half of what they were, or
Yeah.
but I mean, the gas tax is not a percent though, it's
Oh, okay.
something,
Flat rate.
it's a flat rate.
Okay.
okay. so-
But where we will lose are the boats that fill up down here,
Yeah,
on
the
the road,
campers and
that fill up, and some of the campers, yeah, we will lose some of that, but, I'm just flabbergasted though at this one.
that we got that much less than we had in the past.
That we took in property and other local taxes in the general. Is it possible on this that this is pulling in the motor vehicle tax as well into this total here?
But then our general, it should not be.
I mean, because motor vehicle tax, that should be about the same, because it's so much per license, but,
Now, is it more or less based on if they can actually play for tax? How does that work?
I think it's $5
Yeah.
every day.
Certain fees, but the reason why that varies so much is there are so many times that, and I think it's better what it used to be, if people didn't, if they just gave their mailing address and not where they actually resided, a lot of the township tax was paid to the village. But I think they've cured that problem. I don't think it's near the problem it used to be.
The only change now would be you can go up to, 3 years on your tax now, rather than year to year?
I'm just not aware of that.
And then you
It's
can
either
do
2 or
a
3 years.
2-year.
Yeah, it's either 2 or 3
You can
years.
do a 2-year, I'm not sure you can do 3.
Well, I guess, this is always a quandary every year, just hard to make numbers jive. And, yeah, I guess looking at the historical numbers, I think as long as we keep things kind of in line where we have in the past, which a lot of these are following historical numbers, I think, things always just seem to work out in the past. Obviously, we can't spend what we don't have.
Right, but like I said, everything's been tapped into for the reserve fund except for the fire and EMS. Now you even asked about using the fire and EMS money to help with roads, since they use our roads to get to where they're going, but he said no.
No, they're not gonna.
I tried. Because we had the extra money from the other stuff.
Yeah, I think probably the best bet here is go ahead, let's go ahead and, I mean, if you guys are willing, approve the appropriations. But before we make our decisions on how much we're gonna spend on roads, we need to have a good understanding of exactly what we've got
You
here.
may want to go ahead and talk with Brad again, that way you have exactly what, and he can give you a better estimate on what numbers are reacting to everything.
I move we approve the appropriation status.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the appropriation status for 2015. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay. That's approved.
I did send you everybody, I did email you the first quarter of this year on our revenues, so you can see them. And that does include the first, yeah, I just did. Okay.
Just
Oh,
right
just-
now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need to,
We need to find out how it gets more revenue.
well, or find out why we took such a huge drop. By this, we lost a third of our general fund revenue from last year.
I mean, somebody big dies and we might get part of their estate
No,
tax.
unless they died several years ago
Yeah.
and we didn't know
That's what I
about it.
thought.
That's probably,
Yeah, that's,
Like I said, I wasn't expecting that 35,000, I wish I knew that sheet back. Okay, Bill, can you need that sheet back?
This one,
One by John.
the one.
okay.
All right. Anything on, we've done the mowing bids, it does not look like our incumbent is low.
It is, yeah.
Thought that they were
Not-
359 versus 370.
yeah. Oh, they're going to,
And I had no idea how to spell motivated mowers without having the paper in front of me, so. It is not spelled right.
I mean, we said I mean, I think the decision is easy.
Yeah, we just need to-
Well, we said we'd make it at the next meeting, we can do that, but.
yeah, it's posted.
I mean, I don't think we need to check references or any of that, we're our own best reference here.
since they did it last year.
Yeah.
It's one of the same company, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
it is. And they had everything there in line, and
I'm kind of surprised how more
Plus,
expensive that
who else
one was.
bids?
I know.
and they are a township business, which is also, they're not actually out of Grand Gulf. They live up on
Deep
Deep
Road, right?
Okay, fire and EMS.
Any comments on the meeting they had? After the meeting we had?
I haven't already followed.
Yeah. Road and bridge, Dave.
We got the big culvert installed last week on Palmer Road. Have you seen it, John? It turned out all right. The neighbors seemed happy. They were all inspecting it, so. And, we spent 7 or 8 days cold patching. We need to make another run at it because the holes are popping right back up the roads. It's about all I got. We're working on signs, so.
They did make $134
Yeah.
taking culvert in.
It was
for
scrap that
recycling.
culvert, $100 a ton.
Scrap prices are way.
Yeah, yeah. I think last one scrap was 150 or 170.
On, then sort of following up what our site inspection is that, there at the corner of Balbriggan and Conemaugh, you're gonna cut out those 2 sections, correct?
Yes,
What estate did they work? How long was it in?
Carlingford.
Fairmont is. And I noticed as we left Fairmont there that we've got a place right up there at the entrance that we're gonna need to do something on.
Right as you approach.
We had that fixed last year or 2 years ago. Durster came in and heated that, fixed it, and I think that spot is held, but it's sliding between the patches now.
Well, why don't we wait to see, and if it turns out that some of these full depth people are reasonable and that's something that you can, is relatively mobile within the subdivision and across the road in the other subdivision, then maybe we can decide what we do, but.
We were
that's-
going to do what? Remember, repeat what we were talking about.
Cut 2 sections out at,
We're gonna, several sections there at the, Dave knows which ones they are there at Balbriggan and Conemaugh, or Kona Maria.
Connemara,
Yeah, there we go.
Connemara.
Balbriggan and Collingford. That's the two at the intersection.
Yeah,
And then we're gonna do the one on Connemara in front of that new house, that, right?
yeah,
The
okay,
concrete driveway.
White House.
Yeah, and
yeah,
that's the only three we're cutting out right now.
right now, that's it, yeah.
And then we're gonna get information on,
Base restabilization on, drug. and
Trujillo.
And,
Let's keep you guys in zoning for a while, you'll get these names.
We'll just rename everything to make it easy.
and Stone Creek.
Based on Stone Creek.
Okay, anything else, Dave?
No, I don't think so. We still haven't been inspected yet for EPA.
Is that like a spot unannounced kind of thing, or?
They said you get a hold of us.
Okay.
AEP or EPA or?
EPA.
Sure, fine, I
I think that's all I've got.
John, you have anything?
I guess we need to decide whether somebody's going to represent Union Township at that meeting tomorrow. You will? I will. Yeah, thank you. I will do that, so.
Okay, we out of town too. Anything else, John?
That's all I have.
Anything else, Bill?
Don't believe so, no.
I don't have anything,
Were we gonna go through the rules? There were a couple of typos and that type of stuff.
Well, I
for
mentioned that there was
cemeteries,
on
but
the thing. So.
We can do that next time.
Do you wanna recap the tire amnesty to read into the records?
yes, why don't you do that?
Tire amnesty day, we took in 555 tires. And, for $2,500, $2,600.
2606, I thought you were reading.
Yeah, 2606. And that was over last year's, yeah, here's my notes. We had $2,606. We had 555 tires total, 224 car, 161 truck, and 150 over the road, and 77 rims. And last year's total was like, 456, I think.
491.
And,
12.
so they were, the Lincoln County Recycle was very pleased with us.
Are we expected to do this next year also?
They have not heard back from the grant. If we do this again,
2 trailers.
we will be one price on car and truck tires. There's-
That was your biggest problem, is the
Yes.
The light-
hassling over the price.
Yeah. Anything over 19 inches was supposed to be considered a truck tire, not an over-the-road tractor tire thing, but it was supposed to be charged $3. And it was a nightmare. And apparently there's a couple, 2 or 3 townships in the northern end of the county that didn't want to charge anybody anything. And they've kind of hurt the program as far as, if we don't take in enough money to cover the cost, then everybody's gonna have to split what the grant doesn't cover. And they've kind of hurt us, and they're gonna see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
So the grant money got absorbed by those townships, what you're saying? Kind of
Well, the grant
alleviated
money
portion.
covers X amount of dollars, and then this money that we take in helps to cover any overages. And then the grand total of the overages will be split within the 12 townships that are participating. And then, but what hurt was there were some townships that were just taking anything for $1, and Liberty's charging us more than that. And there was quite a long discussion about that, and the program didn't work with a $1 for a car tire and $3 for a truck tire. One of the problems was when people that have SUVs and minivans will have truck tires on them, but when they go to register their plates, it's registered as a car. So they argue with you, probably even knowingly that they bought truck tires, that, oh no, this is car, this is car. Yeah.
And then, another thing that got me too is when, it's nice that people pick up the tires that they find dumped on their property or whatever else, and they're still paying for them.
Mhm.
So that's another, kind of hard charging full price when they actually did a nice deed.
So, overall, I mean, it's a great project, it just had some kinks, so.
Any
but-
feedback from Liberty directly? Were they okay with how things work, at least as far as our particular day?
I haven't heard anything back from, this week. They have, when I talked to, the girls, one day last week, when I took the money in Thursday or Friday, they hadn't heard back from Liberty. But last year, they tried to, charge all of the tires as agricultural or over-the-road tires, the whole load. And they finally got it worked out, but, yeah. So,
Seems like a little work is needed on the organization here when you let one township say it's a freebie.
Unless they want to pay the money themselves.
well, the girls, Lindsay, the administrates the program, she's really frustrated. And I told her I don't have any problem voicing my opinion when we have our next meeting about the prices, because $3, and you're done with the tire. But there's just some folks that, and I don't know exactly which townships they were, but they didn't wanna charge at all. That wasn't the purpose of the grant when you signed up.
One guy actually asked if we were making money on this project. Yeah, we're going shopping afterwards.
But tell you what, some of them tractor tires were on them heavy rims.
Yeah, how do they do it at other townships? They don't have a tractor.
It's gotta be a miserable situation.
Oh, yeah,
It's gotta be, I mean,
yeah.
risk.
We're
factors
very
involved.
lucky John brings the
Mhm.
track over here. Bill and I would probably be dead if
Well,
we had.
and it was a bad weekend because it was the beginning of spring break and I couldn't get help from anywhere. But overall, it worked out well.
Let us know before we get committed to next year.
But I guess we have kind of signed on to that just by verbal
There is,
sign.
yeah, there's a grant application in it, but we've not heard back whether we got it or not.
Well, it's clearly a benefit to our residents down here.
Oh, I never dreamed we'd have as many tires, and we were the first one out.
Maybe being first out is not the best, but we helped out Fairfield County a little bit here.
Yeah, there were several tires.
But
Well, they swore to me that they came from a farm on this side of the county line because yeah.
I don't know, it came from any Margaret's house.
They turned out in a lane along the highway
Well,
somewhere.
we had vehicles from Johnstown, we had
Toboso, we had Granville, we had Hebron, we had Heath.
Newark, yeah.
Newark.
We had-
it's a good thing. I mean,
Yeah.
they're getting
We can't tell them no,
reused,
to be in
and
the
we
business.
are well set up thanks
Well,
to
and
John
they're
here. in
anxious to
terms
get
of
rid of the tires
Right.
because some of those places are having tire days too. The Toboso's having one, Newark and the county
Don't you
are having
get-
one, so they were ready to get rid of them.
Charged an environmental fee or some sort of recycling fee when you get your tires changed, and they keep the old
Yes,
ones.
you do.
I think it's about $2.25 a tire or something like
Yeah.
that, if I recall.
Maybe even 3.
Yeah.
I know some people don't like paying that, and then they end up with,
The tires.
3 years later, they've got a garage full of tires.
And then, yeah,
You need to pay a little bit at a time, and garage at a time.
I think the item here, does anybody have anything additional on Buckeye Lake? Bill's gonna go to the meeting tomorrow.
I think as public officials that we need to, whenever we're talking to friends and family, we need to just remind people to try to support the businesses that are going to be affected. And, those are our friends and neighbors as well. And we need to try to help out the Buckeye Lake area businesses as much as possible during that time that the dam is being rebuilt. So if, we go out and lead the way in doing that, then I'm sure that, our friends and family will help us and follow suit to keep as many businesses in business as possible.
I've gotten Chinese twice now.
I've got a question. I saw where Papa Boo's sent out an email or Facebook thing yesterday or day before. They were planning on dredging near their spot, but because the lake's so low now, they can't even get a barge out there to do it. So I would have thought they would be able to do cleanups and stuff while the lake was low, but they can't get to their location to do it.
There's one dredge that's set up off of the Leaves Island boat ramps. And it is it's not in operation yet, but apparently it's gonna be. They've got the hose there, but the normal dredge at Buckeye Lake is stuck in the little lagoon there where they do the work on it. Yeah, back in there behind the park office, and it is clearly, at least a third of it's on the bottom, because it's in there like that, and,
Wouldn't it have made more sense to leave the water levels up a little bit so you can get places to get the work done during these 5 years?
the whole thing is just ludicrous in my opinion, and it seems to get worse by the day.
Oh, Dad said you missed a great April Fool's joke, though. Buckeye Lake, he thought you should have put it on there that the farmers are gonna rent the Buckeye Lake ground to farm it.
I just didn't think anybody would think that would be funny.
Well, you got my mother.
Oh, a bunch of people got on the
Mom was telling
Buckeye.
me about that.
My mom's like, well, you better slow down when you get to Buckeye Lake. They've got a new speed thing. I'm like, oh, it was April Fool's joke. Oh, I didn't finish reading the article.
But, any new business tonight? Our upcoming is the mowing bid, but as we said before, that's it's a no-brainer for us. If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
Got a motion to adjourn and second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed.